Hello and welcome to the Cybersecurity Q&A. Today's topic is a myth that says cybersecurity is a cost center. This is actually hurtful if you're a practitioner in this space. And it's time to reevaluate how we present this to the management. So when you say something is a cost center, this is a negative view. And of course, businesses are doing their best to minimize costs. Costs are overhead, and less cost is better because it increases profitability. And so when you present something as a cost center, you're simply asking for it to be minimized. How might management view this? Well, they might choose to minimize tool cost. The average organization is using more than 450 different software applications. And so there's expect to get questions around it, especially if it's a single purpose tool that will leave a gap, and more tools means more fatigue, and that's going to be a problem. Another way in which management can look to reduce cost is to trim on staff costs. These are often expensive, specialized skills, hard to find, hard to maintain, hard to train. But if you don't have these skills, then it's not really possible to get the job done. Remember the old saying that a fool with a tool is still a fool. So when you say cost center, you're lending yourself to these kinds of activities. The other way in which cybersecurity people will approach the business guys is to portray cybersecurity as cost reduction, as a risk reduction. What happens when you say something like this is you immediately get asked the question, so then does it decrease risk more than it costs? And can you tell me in hard numbers? You can do it. It's called return on security investment. And it is possible to do, and you probably do need to do that, but expect that question. And also expect to get not a lot of love from the finance guys because while cost reduction, risk reduction is a good thing, it doesn't really lead to growth. And the business guys, management really prioritizes growth. It is the shiny object for them. Profitability, the ability to, make more money is good, and stability is certainly welcome, but these are secondary to revenue growth. So when you position it as a cost or a risk reduction, expect this kind of an answer. So what is a cybersecurity person to do? Well, first of all, please stop saying it's a cost center and start instead thinking of it as a value center. You need to define that value in numerical terms beyond just, a gut feeling. This is possible via ROSI, like we described before, return on security investment. You'd have to think about what is the average loss expectancy, what is the cost of any incident, and then what might be the risk that that incident would come to pass. Costs are really typically, aside of the operations cost of your systems being down, there is the cost in reputation, which CFOs care about a lot. There is the cost of regulatory compliance and possibly penalties and fines, and any other risk that you might have. These are all easily quantifiable. There's plenty of literature available in industry for you to help. And this is something that you should do in order to provide hard numbers. Another thing you can and should do is enlist everybody in the company to be your ally. All too often, security people are thinking in their own little universe, and they don't necessarily understand user priority and the impact or the friction that these security diktats can cause on people. To give you a for instance, often you implement shiny new EDR that looks at the endpoint and all of those risky files, and it flags an Excel file that has macros enabled and says, okay, I cannot allow this, except that the team's been using this for many, many years. And that's the basis for the calculation that's done every month. And now all of a sudden you've put their processes at risk simply because today's Excel says macros are a bad thing without having thought through whether this is meaningful for the company, yay or nay. Same for application developers who want to release stuff quickly. If the security processes get in their way, they'll find a way to sidestep it. The old argument used to be that when you made for complex passwords, people wrote it down in sticky notes and stuck them on the back of their laptop. Thereby, what did you really accomplish? So think about security processes in terms of friction because you want everyone in the company to be your ally. Since we're on the topic of saving money anyway, go ahead and think about tool duplication. Maybe you do have more than one security tool, or something that you are acquiring or can acquire can replace something else because there's an overlap in functionality. That is certainly something to do. The numbers people will welcome the sunsetting of any particular tool and its associated costs as a step towards giving you what is it that you really want. Last but certainly not the least, this is not a one and done fight. You expect to fight this fight every month, which means You must have metrics, and plenty of these are available in industry to demonstrate, particularly to the business people, what are the results that you're getting from the investment that you asked for. This will redefine cybersecurity as really being a value center delivering month in and month out instead of a one-time cost center that's in jeopardy every time you go for budget. Now, you remember the story of Sisyphus. This was the king that was cursed by Zeus to push the rock up the hill all the time. If you don't do this kind of rethink, where you rebrand security as a value center, then you're going to be like Sisyphus. And every time there's pressure on the budget, there's going to be pressure on you to justify why you're doing. You don't want to be like Sisyphus. Cybersecurity is really a value center, not a cost center. Thank you for your attention.